I like to walk in and do Tai Chi in the middle and then walk out. It's just a wonderfully centering experience. Each day I would look at this piece of lawn and think, I think a labyrinth would fit here. And that would be a wonderful place to unwind and come to center. Many people walk through that churchyard. It's actually not a shortcut, but many people see it as a shortcut, and it's also beautiful. As people pray the labyrinth, as they walk it, as they meditate, an energy begins to happen in that space, which I think draws people to contemplation, to peace.
We shared a common dream with Sister Judy Moran. We knew her from the prison and what she was doing, and knew that she was fascinated with the concept of the labyrinth. And it was a short step from there to gaining the support of the parish. We all saw the labyrinth as a pattern of life, a way of walking the road, of journeying together, journeying towards a concept of justice which we understood as peace, as shalom, as salam. And it seemed the most natural thing, therefore, to make a connection through the Restorative Justice Coalition with the inmates of William Head Institution. Restorative justice is both a philosophical and spiritual movement reflecting on criminal justice reform. At first sight, it's perhaps a striking combination, a prison and a church. And yet, as one looks back into the tradition, one realizes it's the most natural kind of combination that you could imagine. Certainly, the 11th century Jewish scholar Rashid said that a synagogue should never be far from a courthouse. And here we are, Christ Church Cathedral, right across from the courthouse. And if we look at the traditions, of course, many of the prophets and the people who've walked the path of life have themselves experienced prison. But more importantly, it's our concept of what constitutes community that is of importance to us. And community, of course, is at the heart of our life together in our faith tradition, and one could well say in all faith traditions. And that's what gives us a rather special edge in relating to people who have been marginalized. They too are part of our community. In short, on this path of life together, we see that no one is a throwaway person, and all must eventually be reintegrated into our society.
How many people actually want to hear this? Because I find that a lot of people want to disassociate themselves from us, want us to slink back into society and be quiet. Okay? They don't want to hear that, this could happen to you.
Ultimately, restorative justice is concerned with dealing with the pain of crime. And it does so through a number of dynamic principles such as forgiveness and reconciliation and healing. Our community was particularly caught by the idea, and it was not long before a group from our own parish went out to the prison to meet with those who were eligible for work release. And one of the things that struck them was how ready that the inmates were to participate in a community project. In many different ways, they expressed the view that they wanted to give something back to community.
When we're incarcerated, we're shut away. We're shut away from the community, and I wanted to reach out to that community instead and say, listen, I acknowledge the fact that I've hurt a lot of people. I want to, I'm being held accountable for my offense.
I began looking around within my own environment, within the prison community, to do something that would assist me in finding some meaning, because just doing time is meaningless.
The thing that drove me to the restorative justice group here in William Head is that I wanted to have a better understanding of restorative justice. I didn't really quite understand what the concept behind it was. And when I came out here, I got a better understanding of how we can get the community to be involved into the whole process as apart from the retributive system where you're put aside by the court system.
Michael Hadley from the Restorative Justice Coalition, and who's also a member of this church, mentioned the project, and we thought about putting together with work release, and so we started the process of talking to people within the institution about a year ago.
Laying the blocks is going to be quite time consuming. We've been told this is a big project.
That was the main concern that was expressed by...
Nobody had done this before, and we had a design, but we didn't know how it was going to work out, and so every one of them played their part in suggesting, in trying things out, discussing the planning. So they weren't just here just to do the donkey work, so to speak. They were part of the whole creation of it in every way.
Well, what I've seen of the people that are involved with restorative justice, they are well-grounded people, professional people, and what they have done coming in here is they have motivated people to think and to act and to be part of a team, and to think as a team, as opposed to most people walking around doing their time by themselves and thinking about themselves and generally just being selfish.
I had many years where I was more self-centered than most. It led me down a road where I really don't want to go back down, and being involved with the people that are currently coming in and being involved with people I believe on the street that are involved in the things that I believe in it's a way of life, and that's the type of life that I would like to live.
Coming out of prison is a terrifying experience because there are all sorts of changes. The change in language, the change in culture, job change, lifestyle change. It's just tremendous numbers of changes.
Let me take this opportunity to welcome you, one and all, and especially to my young assistants who are Whitney, Shane,
Elijah.
And Elijah. We gather with a great deal of gladness and joy to think that we've come this far with the project. This is a project which began in someone's mind, and it has been understood from the beginning that this is a bit of outreach into the community beyond us, as well as something that members of our own community can use.
What I'm really here to tell you about is the opportunity, and thank you for including the work release program from William Head Institution in this wonderful project. About 6 inmates will be coming out next week. I believe it's on Wednesday when the actual work is going to be starting, along with probably some people that are residing in a halfway house here in Victoria at this time as well. And these people have all been carefully scrutinized, and it's deemed in their best interests, pursuant to their case management that's taken place, that they be allowed to take part in this opportunity. A lot of people don't realize that most people in prison do return to the community, either at the end of their sentence or during parole or on other forms of temporary absences. Within Correctional Service of Canada, we use a lot of words such as reintegration, and when I think about it, I hear the words inreach and outreach here at this church, and I think we're talking the same thing. It's just that we've somehow given it a much more complicated name than it really needs.
It's giving back to the community that I've lived in and probably taken a lot more than I've given. So this is, for me, it makes me feel good to come here and know that this is going to be used by people that are in this community, and it's appreciated. It's something that we can do from our end.
Well, this is kind of one of my very first steps actually to give back to the community. So I've had an opportunity to volunteer, so I'm here. The labyrinth is very, very new to me. I didn't know what a labyrinth was until actually we had started building this. So,
to me, it means everybody following a single path to an individual destination where we can all come together and have a single goal in mind. I will definitely be walking the labyrinth when it's finished, and when I again am a member of the community, I'll be walking in this labyrinth.
I really enjoyed the first day we worked here. The guys all left here really pumped up and feeling good about it, and we knew that the volunteers felt good about it, and it was a good feeling all around.
Drawing here which shows the threes. So the threes are nearly rectangular.
Well, these would be threes right here?
Well, you have to decide that yourself.
A lot of the work release projects involve the guys being out in the bush and that, and they don't talk to anybody except for themselves or the people that are with them, and so they don't run into other people from the public, and I think that's what's so special about this project.
There were some who were fearful of what their behavior would be, what their language would be. They have been exemplary in every way. They've been punctual, they've been willing, they've been cheerful, polite, creative, and they have really participated because this was a work in process right from the very beginning.
Getting to the center of the labyrinth gives you some special feeling too. Hard to describe. Have to do it yourself. Get in there, walk it.
It was very satisfying to have built something and then know how useful it's going to be, because we've had everything from people from the YMCA wanting to use it for yoga to just a bunch of people, volunteers from William Head, saying that they've been here, and it's just a nice feeling to see some of them actually come here and be part of something that's part of a community.
I like the concept of restorative justice, the fact that it involves victims, offenders, and community. And I like some of the principles of restorative justice. The fact that you're able to perhaps at one time meet with your victims to answer perhaps some questions that they need to have answered, and also to take responsibility for your part in any crimes that you've committed. I think that with the retributive justice system, that victims are often, and most of the time, left out of the equation. And so are the offender in a way, because his needs are not met as well.
Glad you're here from Restorative Justice and representing some of the people who helped to construct this marvelous addition to our cathedral presence in the city.
We attended the church ceremony prior to the labyrinth dedication, so and I'm not a church-going person, but being out in this beautiful cathedral, it was quite moving. After being in prison for 13 years, not used to things like that. The thing that I really noticed and really struck me was the young children singing in the choir. I hadn't heard children's voices singing for a long time, and it was very, very moving. Now being outside with this labyrinth, it's another experience that I've never partaken of before, so it's renewing my faith in freedom.
It felt as if we were all whole. There have been so many bits and pieces to the project, and the theoretical and the planning and the construction, and it was just wonderful to feel everybody together following the same path, walking, and all, I think, really thankful. I know I personally was giving thanks for everything, for the surroundings, for the success, for the hard work, and thinking about these guys who helped us so much, and for their future, and everybody, in fact, who will be walking on that path. It's been a wonderful learning experience.
It's helping me realize that if I give back to the community and become part of the community, there's less chance that I'll want to harm the community when I get out, and that's how restorative justice views crime, as something that's harming the community.
When you're in this inside world in here, basically we've only got each other in here, and most people go their own direction. But when you've got the people from the community involved in here, and we see that they are sincere about working with us in here and exploring our talents in here and our skills, and allowing us that leeway to be able to lead, not just follow. It's amazing what you see come out of people in here.
It's kind of unbelievable that I had a dream and I said something and people picked it up and really took it, and so many different people.
Keeping people in prison, I know it doesn't work. It's a waste of time for the prisoner. It's also a waste of money for society, because prisoners who sit in prison, regardless how much time they're sitting there, they're just putting in time. They're just sitting there breathing in and out. They could be doing something a lot more productive.
Restorative justice is not a single discrete event. It's a process, and it involves many people over a long period of time getting involved in things which are entirely new to them. And perhaps for that reason it is a little frightening. Certainly at the very beginning of our process, there were those who had fears about having people from a federal prison coming here on the grounds of the cathedral, where we have school children playing, wondering what would happen, what would be the mix. And I know very well that there were those in the federal prison who also had fears, and they were wondering how would they be received by the parish. I think we can say that all have been changed by this process, and I think we have made a very significant first step.
I've watched the men do various projects, and this particularly has been one in which they have felt a sense of paying back, a sense of we have contributed to the community, and this contribution we will know, maybe nobody else will know, but we will know that it will be here for a lot of years.
As I walk this meditational path of life, symbolized by the labyrinth, I find the center, the goal of my journey so near at hand. And yet, as so often happens in life, my path seems to take me away from it. I could fall into despair, anxiety, concern. And yet, if I persevere, I find myself being drawn ever onward into the center. Say in all faith traditions. And that's what gives us a rather special edge in relating to people who have been marginalized. They too are part of our community. In short, on this path of life together, we see that no one is a throwaway person, and all must eventually be reintegrated into our society.
Because I find that a lot of people want to disassociate themselves from us, want us to slink back into society and be quiet. Okay? They don't want to hear that, this could happen to you.
Ultimately, restorative justice is concerned with dealing with the pain of crime. And it does so through a number of
I like to walk in and do Tai Chi in the middle and then walk.
Movement reflecting on criminal justice reform. At first sight, it's perhaps a striking combination, a prison and a church. And yet as one looks back into the tradition, one realizes it's the most natural kind of combination that you could imagine. Certainly the 11th century Jewish scholar Rashid said that a synagogue should never be far from a courthouse. And here we are, Christ Church Cathedral, right across from the courthouse. And if we look at the traditions, of course, many of the prophets and the people who've walked the path of life have themselves experienced prison. But more importantly, it's our concept of what constitutes community that is of importance to us. And community, of course, is at the heart of our life together in our faith tradition, and one could well
to contemplation, to peace.
We shared a common dream with Sister Judy Moran. We knew her from the prison and what she was doing, and knew that she was fascinated with the concept of the labyrinth. And it was a short step from there to gaining the support of the parish. We all saw the labyrinth as a pattern of life, a way of walking the road, of journeying together, journeying towards a concept of justice which we understood as peace, as shalom, as salam. And it seemed the most natural thing, therefore, to make a connection through the Restorative Justice Coalition with the inmates of William Head Institution. Restorative justice is both a philosophical and spiritual.
It's just a wonderfully centering experience. Each day I would look at this piece of lawn and think, I think a labyrinth would fit here. And that would be a wonderful place to unwind and come to center. Many people walk through that churchyard. It's actually not a shortcut, but many people see it as a shortcut, and it's also beautiful. As people pray the labyrinth, as they walk it, as they meditate, an energy begins to happen in that space, which I think draws people to